In this video, we're going to take a look at the gradient map adjustment layer. Now, the gradient map is actually one of my favorite layers because it's a great way to tone an image like a sepia tone, or if you want to do something like a cyanotype. And here's how it works. Let's go ahead and drop one on. So I'll just click on a gradient map, and suddenly everything just turns blue in this case, but take a look at the gradient itself that was just applied. Now, this is available in the settings for gradient map. What's happening here is that the darkest pixels are being mapped to the left side of the gradient, and the lightest pixels are mapped to the right side of the gradient. And then everything that takes place in between is just what happens as you shift from those dark pixels to the light ones. So we can grab one of the presets and get some really crazy effects. Like if I grab a rainbow, we get some really interesting stuff. Or really any of the presets, you can get some pretty wacky stuff. But a typical black and white gradient will really, in most cases, just black and white your image. That's probably the easiest way to look at it, because it's taking your darkest pixels and mapping them to black, and your lightest pixels mapping them to white, and so on. Now, if we turn on Dither, what that does is that adds a little bit of blurring to your gradient to kind of soften things up if you need it. Often the shift is very, very subtle. And then we have reverse. Now, I do want to make sure I clarify something. I don't want to suggest that the very lightest pixels in your document are actually mapped to the full right-hand side of the gradient, because that suggests there's some sort of normalization going on, and that's not really the case. If there are any white pixels, they are mapped to the right side of the gradient. So that's a little clearer. Now, what we can do, though, is we can click on the gradient itself, and we can make our own adjustments. So here we are with our typical black to white gradient. If I click to create a flag right in the middle, I can pick any color of the rainbow and grab like a midtone, and it's a great way to tone the image toward that color. You can slide that flag around if you want things to be a little brighter. Just open up a little more of the spectrum to be fading out toward white, or you can bring your white flag down, like so, which works really well for this image because there aren't really any super bright pixels. Or, of course, if you want to darken it, you can just go in the other direction. And, of course, you're not limited to one particular color either. If you want to drop in another flag and add on any other color, you can start to get some really off-the-wall effects. Now, for best results, even if you want to do things like crazy colors, I do recommend you keep your the intensity of your tones, your luminosity, keeping it dark on the left-hand side, and then go up to midtones in the middle and keep your lighter ones to the right. It'll just keep things looking nicer on your image, but of course you don't have to do that. For instance, I could drop a flag here and make it super bright, and then drop a flag over here and make it super dark, which could start to get some really crazy off-the-wall results, which could be very handy. Let's go ahead, though, and switch this back over to a basic black and white and click OK. You also have the ability to reverse your gradient, which will invert, so the darker pixels are mapped to the left-hand side of the gradient still, but now, of course, you flip the gradient over, so things are white where they were originally pretty dark. So that's really all there is to it. That's the gradient map in a nutshell, and that is going to wrap things up for this video. Thanks a lot.